Sí, caballeros, señoritos y señoritas, sean todos bienvenidos de nuevo. Probablemente habrán visto un pequeño corte. Quienes están viendo la misión esta de Lini completa desde YouTube, pues tuvimos un problema. Se nos juntaron 40 misiones, tuvimos que cortar unas cosas, luego cortar otras, y pues sí. Para quienes están viendo, ya salió Navia. Simón, tanto me he tardado en completar esta misión que hasta salió Navia. Y tenemos un nuevo evento. Lo que pasó es de que para este evento tenemos que completar antes la misión de Furina. Para completar la misión de Furina tenemos antes que completar todas estas. Entonces vamos a hacer un speedrun en la misión de Lini, luego la de Billet, luego la de Wesley y vamos a terminar con la de Furina. Esperando poder completar este evento en menos de 15 días y todas las misiones de todos los nuevos personajes. Así que con Navia Swift aquí al inicio, pues vamos a empezar. Lini y su misión. Vamos para allá. Me encanta poder caminar sobre el agua. No, a ver.
You followed us a long way. Why don't you come out and introduce yourselves?
So you're Linny. And where's your sister? Ain't she with you today?
Un momento, ¿estos no son los de espina de Rosula?
Let's not drag this out.
Hyman doesn't like the tone of your voice, mister. Who sent you, huh?
Save your questions, missy. You ain't gonna need answers where you're going. Capiche?
Looks like we can't avoid this fight. Now, I'm not the strongest fighter, so I hope you're ready to back me up.
Tranquilo.
Don't worry, we got this.
Yo me encargo.
Solidify.
Para empezar,
Hold that pose.
segundo, Potito. Tercero, Furina. Claro, si viniera aquí a ayudarme mis subordinados. Atacamos.
That's the way.
Y ahora están a punto de valer madres. ¡Pum!
Hey there.
Escopetazo en la cara.
Tougher than we thought.
Bueno.
Vision wielders are always trouble. Intimidation ain't gonna work like it did on the lady.
Come on.
What?
Scram.
No los dejemos irse.
Hey, guys, we ain't through with you yet. Oh, they got away. Did you catch what they said just before they left? Something about intimidating someone else. Sounds like they
Exacto.
just wanted to rough us up as a scare tactic, and they've already done it to someone else, but who?
Tal vez a Yema.
She was injured when we saw her yesterday, and she acted like she had something to hide.
Pobrecita.
Maybe she was too scared to tell us the truth because those guys had threatened her.
Well, if that's the case, she should be more willing to open up to us once she learns that those thugs won't be bothering her anymore.
Podemos ofrecerle
Let's head
protección.
back to the cafe and see if we can get any information from her.
Venga. Al café. El lugar favorito de Navia. Por aquí, ¿no? Creo que queda mejor aquí. ¡Ay! Navia casual caminando por un café con su hacha. ¿Te imaginas a alguien entrando en un Starbucks con tremenda hacha en la espalda? ¿Qué te pasa, Lynette?
Gemma?
You again. What is it this time?
We just ran into the men who've been threatening you, and we gave them a taste of their own medicine. So, you can relax now. We're here to protect you.
What? Why? I didn't tell you anything. Why would they come after you?
Sounds like they're no strangers to you.
That's putting it mildly. I know them all too well, and I hate them with every fiber of my being.
El robot ahí al
10
fondo.
long years, and still every time I try to look into Caesar's death, they show up and warn me not to do anything stupid. How do I know I can trust you? Do you really think you can get to the bottom of it all?
Sí.
And
Hombre, les dimos riata a esos cabrones súper rápido. Puedes confiar en nosotros. Digo
I'm
yo.
afraid I can't reveal all the details just yet, but I can promise you this. I will expose the Phantom Weasel's true identity. Because you see, this is a personal matter of the utmost importance. I give you my word. Trust me.
Okay. How can I help you?
I've heard that Caesar used to have a magic workshop where he kept a lot of his personal effects. If possible, I'd like to take a look at them. Do you know where it is?
The Fleuve Sonde. But the place was sealed up by the police after his death, and no one's been there since. I also know that the Fleuve Sonde is dangerous territory. Lots of hostile groups lurking around. If you're serious about going there, please be careful.
Understood. Lynette, you stay here and take care of Gemma. Don't let her come to harm.
Por favor, Lynette.
Got it.
Dependemos de vos.
If I'm staying here, I'm ordering dessert.
I mean, bon appetit. But stay sharp, too. They're likely to come for you.
Lynette. Está bien, la protejo, pero ¿puedo al menos comer un pastel mientras estoy aquí?
I'll start taking this more seriously now.
Pobre Lynette. Modo de ahorro de energía. Como que fuera robot de mi Lynette tan linda. ¿Por qué no puedo sentar? Me gusta esta foto, de hecho. Tengo que... A ver, voy a hacer una cosa antes de que, antes de que pase más tiempo porque siempre se me olvida. ¿Dónde está? Ajá, cámara, aquí está. Voy a reemplazar... ¿Esto qué era? Eventos, misiones, el archivo, la tienda. ¿Qué puedo reemplazar? Lo de los eventos creo que voy a reemplazar. Sí. Esto... Tomar foto, lo vamos a ver. Este lo quitamos y vamos a poner este. Bien. Otros ajustes. Sí. Ahí estamos. Venga, tomar foto. Bien. Nadia casual tomándose un cafecito con Lynette y Jen. Vámonos. ¿Para dónde es? Mente. Esto es bajo tierra. What? ¿Cómo que bajo tierra? Realmente me parece hermoso, increíble, precioso que Nadia, a pesar de lo bien que se viste, o sea, no tenga escrúpulos en venir aquí abajo a ayudar a las personas. Eso me gusta bastante. Lagartija. Perdón. ¿Aquí es el lugar?
If Gemma gave us the right location, then the workshop should be right nearby. Huh. Looks like these boxes are blocking the entrance.
Ah, hay más lugar aquí abajo.
There we go. It should be just down here.
Hay más lugar aquí abajo. No mames. ¿Qué tengo en fuego? Fuego. Sean Lee. No, espérate, vos no. ¿Alguien de fuego de Fontaine? No hay nadie de fuego de Fontaine, ¿no? Es curioso que en la Nación del Agua no haya nadie de fuego. Pues llevémonos a esta.
Good eye.
Vamos, Jutao. Solo te voy a usar para el cargado y ya de ahí me voy a quedar pegando ataques básicos con la vida. A ver. ¡Ay, estoy con Lily! Ok. No era necesario entonces. Ah. Interesante. Tiene plante de que esto se puede romper. O sea, romper y me ha carenado cabeza. Su madre. Eso estuvo cerca. Ok.
So this was Caesar's workshop. Nothing suspicious here, just normal normal
Bueno,
magic
nada
practice.
sospechoso, mis cojones. ¿Quién tiene esto en su sótano? Un montón de libros. ¿Ah?
What was that? Oh. Is this one of Caesar's gadgets?
Ah, ya, son las cosas estas que... Ya, qué chingón. Qué bonito, parecen pequeños nubilet. Mira, Furina, pégale a uno. Qué lindo. Quiero uno. Ah, ya, les tengo que... Ah, ya, les tengo que pegar para que... Les tengo que pegar para que... Ya. ¿Soy yo o esto me está dando... Esta misión está siendo tan de Batman entrando a la guarida del Guasón ahorita. Me siento Navia Batman aquí. Navia Wayne. Entrando a buscar al Guasón a su guarida. No, espérate. No veo que ataquen. Calmémonos. Bueno, sí, me están atacando. Ok.
Feeling lucky? Hey there!
Me molesta un poco.
Look,
Sí.
doll in the box is glowing.
Ay, vuelan. De paso, vuelan también. Me molesta un poco que nadie tenga tanto daño. Sí, un poquito. Porque no me deja...
There's something written on the card on this doll. Let's take a closer look.
Está de deseos. Quiero comer pollo frito y que nunca se acabe, ok. Quiero una mochila nueva. Por desgracia en este mundo no existen las cosas infinitas y el pollo frito no es una excepción. Da igual... Ah, espérate. Además comer tantas cosas fritas no es bueno para la salud. Si lo haces debemos acompañarlas con una ensaladita, ¿de acuerdo? Atentamente, César. Quiero una paloma pequeñita. Quiero un robot que sea muy guapo. Para tener mascotas se necesita el permiso de los padres y además hay que cuidarlas muy bien. Esta vez te voy a regalar una paloma de peluche, pero cuando estés preparado haré una de verdad aparezca ante ti. Atentamente, César. ¿Son como regalos que César hacía para los niños? Realmente mientras más vamos avanzando la historia de César me parece más trágica, mientras más averiguamos acerca de él. Un montón de props de... Bueno, espérate, ¿cómo es que estos globos aún tienen helio después de tantos años? A no ser que en Teyvat no existe el helio y tengan... Ahora que lo pienso nunca me he puesto a pensar ¿qué clase de elementos hay en este? No, por favor. Esto me pasa por imbécil. Uf, ya creí que me había trabado ahí. ¿Qué clase de elementos habrá en este mundo? O sea, doy por hecho que no serán los mismos que en nuestro mundo, ¿no? ¿Ah? Activa. Ah, ok. Portal de resurrección activado. Vamos a ver, ¿pelea aquí o qué onda?
Looks like we've reached the end of this route. Shall we try a different one?
Por allá. Ok. Sí, mientras más avanzamos, más siento que estamos en la guarida del Guasón.
These magic boxes are moving. What do we do?
One of them looks different from the rest. Let's investigate.
Pegarle, estoy por hecho, ¿no? Este es el de medio. Y los de a... Espérate. ¿Cuál era cuál? Espérate. Ok, hay que ir por ese. Que está brillando. Es ese de aquí. Ese de aquí, ese de aquí, ese de aquí, ese de aquí, ese de aquí. Bien, este. Bien. Ahora, de este lado... No sé cuál era. Bueno, pero mencionaba hace rato lo del Guasón, porque no sé si habrán visto, pero casi siempre en cualquier adaptación de cualquier adaptación de Batman, siempre que el Batman se pone a seguir al Guasón y lo sigue por la base, casi siempre termina siendo o en Arkham con todo descontrolado como siempre, o en un lugar super creepy de espejos y payasos y mil cosas así de feria. De hecho, me hubiera traído el Traveler en esta misión.
That's weird. Have we reached the end already? There's nothing here. Maybe this was a wasted trip.
¿Qué miras, Lini?
This place seems a little too ordinary for a magician's workshop. There's a distinct lack of mystery. We've triggered quite a few devices on the way here. I'm starting to wonder whether Caesar built this whole place as one big, elaborate magic contraption.
¿Por qué haría eso? No tengo idea, pero bueno.
So, then there must be more to this place than meets the eye.
Sí.
Maybe a hidden room somewhere.
Tal vez la lámpara o ese símbolo de ahí atrás.
Aha! If I just move this book, then hopefully...
Exacto.
A secret passageway. How did you know?
Aquí todo tiene pasillos secretos, Paimon. ¿Qué te
I'm a
sorprende?
magician too, and apparently great minds really do think alike.
¿Hay un cofre ahí?
Looks pretty big inside. Let's head in and take a look around.
Quiero el cofre. Mi instinto de jugador de Genshin Impact. Un cofre y lo necesito. Si es una trampa me vale madre, pero lo necesito siempre. Una pregunta, ¿por qué estos cofres siempre han desaparecido? O sea, no tiene mucha lógica, ¿no? Desaparece la... Son cofres mágicos, desaparece la madera una vez que sacan las cosas de dentro. Sería algo complicado, ¿no? Es que intenté sacar algo de ese cofre que desaparezca.
How brilliant! Coming at ya.
Si no me alcanzan ni por un combo. ¿Podemos tener un poquito de enemigos un poco más fuertes, por favor? Estoy one-shoteando todo ahorita y no me está gustando. En serio. En estos históricos me voy trabando ya como unas 2 veces. Me voy atorando. Cofre. ¿Algún día en Genshin va a haber un cofre trampa? ¿Por uno que haya o ya me voy a dejar... Voy a quedar, ¿cómo se dice esto? Con problemas de confianza para el resto de la vida. No voy a poder abrir un cofre sin que piense de que es una trampa. Ok. Vamos a ver si los podemos esquivar. Hay un mecanismo aquí arriba. Doy por hecho que habrá que activarlo primero, ¿no? Y exacto, el activador está ahí. ¿Puedo activarte? No. Ok. No se ven muy malos estos.
Solidify.
Voy a dejar que los amiguitos estos de Purina se encarguen. Ey, esta es la caja esta de Lini, la que Lini usó para desaparecer. ¿Terminaron? Gracias. Ah, no. Falta uno todavía. ¿Qué están haciendo, cabrones?
Strike a pose. Umbrella warfare, I guess.
57.000 de una habilidad. ¿Qué es esto?
Why have you stopped, Lenny? Is there some device in that box?
Escucho a los animales estos de Purina pegarle algo. No sé qué le estarán pegando. Van a dejar todo mojado aquí.
It just looks familiar somehow. Let me check this out for a second while you guys go on ahead.
Ok, ¿a qué le están pegando esos cabrones
If
allá?
anyone makes a major discovery, let's rendezvous here.
Ok.
All right. See you in a bit.
Doy por hecho que nosotros vamos a ir a resolver el puzzle de arriba, ¿no? Ajá. Activar todas las plataformas mágicas sin repetir el camino. Esto está interesante. Creo que ya la cagué, ¿verdad? Creo que sí ya la cagué. Sí, la canteamos. Sí. Venga. ¿Derecha o izquierda? Si me voy aquí. Eh...
Oh, seems like we can't step on the same tile twice.
Sí, yo sé.
Guess we've got to finish it in one run, huh?
Sí, 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 ya entendí. Lo que pasa es de que no sé cómo hacerlo. Ya sé cómo. Ya sé cómo. Esperamos a que volvamos aquí y luego nos vamos.
Wow, there's a hidden room here. Let's see.
El diario de
It's so
César.
thick as a brick.
Tiene un amigo que se llamaba
Let's take a
César.
look inside it, shall we?
Lista de deseos, niños que aprenden magia, preocupaciones de Lorenzo, despedidas. Creo que esto es lo más relevante, ¿no?
At
Va
one
a
of
ver si
my
me deja ver
shows
uno
a
por
few
uno.
days ago, a child asked me how I pulled candy out of my hat. As a joke, I told the kid that the hat has a built-in wish-granting machine. Next thing I know, a whole bunch of kids were
Me hubiera
pestering
gustado
me to
conocer a
pull all
César.
sorts of things out of the hat. So I told them another white lie. The machine needs time to power up, but in the meantime, you can write your wishes down. Well, they took me up on that offer, enthusiastically. As I write this, I've only just got back from running around all over town, buying the things
Qué
they
buena onda.
wanted. Boy, are my legs sore. I wound up saving very little this month, but that's not a major issue. I now have a bigger problem. How am I going to hide all these things inside my hat?
Niños que aprenden magia.
Two children came to talk to me after today's show. I don't know why they were out on their own. They looked much too young to be unsupervised. I do hope they got home safely. Anyway, they said that they wanted me to teach them how to do magic. It's not uncommon for children to ask this, of course, but I've never seen any of them as serious about it as these two.
Ah, ya sé.
I told them that
Linet
learning
y
magic
Lini,
is
¿no?
very hard work, but that didn't faze them at all. It's like they already knew. And they seemed so committed. I couldn't turn them down.
Sí, o sea, tengo entendido que tendrían que ser Lini y Linet, porque por lo que por lo que Lini nos dijo sobre la historia de cuando eran pequeños en la corte esta de Fontaine, estaban solos al inicio y no tenían cómo conseguir comida ni nada, entonces Lini se puso a hacer trucos de magia para que la gente le tirara dinero y poder comer con Linet. Quiero creer que son ellos dos de quienes está escribiendo César en este diario. Preocupaciones de Lorenzo.
It seems like something's bothering Lorenzo lately, but he won't open up to me about it. Surely he's not upset that I agreed to teach those two children. I'll have to talk him around. I have a good feeling about those kids. They're naturally talented, and it seems like they're not new to the world of magic. They have all sorts of fantastic ideas. All I'm really doing is helping them develop a more professional standard training plan.
Ok.
They wanted to call me master, but I told them they absolutely mustn't. Any magician worth their salt could have taught them what I have. They're the geniuses here. Compared to them, I don't deserve to be called any sort of master.
Ah, el síndrome del impostor.
I have no doubt that they could become far greater magicians than I. My only concern is why they're so mature for their age. I fear they've had to grow up too fast. I don't dare to imagine what they must have been through.
Pobrecita.
Thinks so too. She doesn't
Gemma.
like being around them. Says that their eyes are too piercing. They don't bother me. Then again,
Yo imagino la mirada de Lynette, toda seria de chiquita. Ah, debe haber sido la cosa más cute del mundo. Despedidas.
it's nearly time for me to go on tour. I asked the two kids if they'd like to come with me, but they shook their heads. I once overheard them talking about their father and their mission. Sounds like their parents have other plans for them. I guess we'll be part
Espérense,
of
o sea
it
que.
too. It's only been
O sea
10
que
days since I
Arlequino los
first
conocía
met
desde
them.
entonces. No, pero eso no tiene
That
sentido,
I've
¿no?
gotten a feel for their personalities now. They're very tough, but also very cautious, and they trust no one but each other. This, I fear, is not a good habit to
O sea que
have.
César los conoció una vez que ya eran parte de la
They
casa de la
hide
hoguera.
things from me too. For
The
example,
House of the Heart.
when I asked them where they live and why they wanted to learn magic, they lied. That's the thing about children. Whenever they're trying to cover something up, it always shows somehow. I can sense that their lives have been hard, possibly even dangerous too. They're not like other children. It's a shame that I can't do more to help them. After thinking things over, I decided to tell them a bit about how I see the world. It's full of lies and falsehoods, and that is why we must find our own truth. P.S. I hope they won't find my nagging annoying. Children are so opinionated nowadays. Will it do them more harm than good for someone they've only known 10 days to lecture them like that? P.P.S. Maybe I'm overthinking this. Children aren't interested in grand philosophies. It probably just went in one ear and out the other. I bet they've already forgotten every word I said. Oh, Caesar, Caesar. Just mind your own business next time.
Ok. Dejar de leer.
Two magic geniuses with a father and a mission, huh?
¿A quién te suena esto?
Sounds a lot like he was writing about Linny and Lynette, don't you think?
Yep.
So did they meet Caesar when they were kids? Let's go ask Linny.
Ok.
Linny?
Shh, hold that thought. As I expected, there's a lot of fishy things going on in this place.
Fishy? Uh-oh, what have you found?
All in good time. Before we go over our new leads, I want to tell you how a high-altitude escape is performed. First, the magician slots themselves into a magic box in full view of the audience. The box is then suspended high in the air, and a short while later, the base automatically opens. At this point, a dummy will fall out of the box, but it looks real enough to grab the audience's attention, and they start wailing and screaming. Meanwhile, the real magician, who has by now blended into the crowd, waits for a good moment to make their appearance and put on a hysterical performance.
Ajá.
Oh no! Is that me? Did I just fall to my death?
Very vivid description. Paimon can really picture it. And then what?
The audience's gaze then turns to the magician, and by the time they realize what's happened, the dummy has vanished, as if everything that just happened was some sort of shared illusion. Of course, that's just how I think the process should work, theoretically speaking.
¿Lo
The
supones?
inventor of this trick never performed it successfully. When the box opened, Caesar was the one who fell out, and not the dummy.
Ok, entonces Star murió durante eso. ¿O qué
He
pasó?
fell right to the ground from the highest point of the opera house. No one could hope to survive that fall.
Ouch, ¿cuántos han muerto en la ópera, por Dios? O sea, no es la primera vez que se muere alguien en la ópera.
And no one else has ever attempted this trick since. My understanding of how it works is just based on what I could gather from his notes and the relevant gadgets here in his workshop.
So Caesar's famous high-altitude escape has never been done, huh? Paimon was about to say how cool it would have been to see it in person, but if it's that dangerous, it's probably for the best that no one else tries to do it. Wait a second. So if a dummy's supposed to drop out of the box, then where does the real magician go? How does...
Glad you asked. That brings us to the secret of said box. This box right here is the one that Caesar constructed himself to use in the performance, and it's not as simple as it looks. Inside, there's a device that only the magician himself would know about. Once the magician's inside and the box is lifted up into the air, the audience's view of the box is fixed at a certain angle. From where they're standing, they have a clear view of the front, sides, and bottom, but the back and the top are now no longer visible. At this point, the magician presses a button inside the box, opening a secret door out of view. He then escapes through this trapdoor onto the opera house roof, waits for the dummy to fall and distract the audience, and quietly returns to ground level.
That's way simpler than Paimon imagined. Even Paimon could probably do it.
Well, there's a little more to it than that, of course. The hardest part of this trick is controlling the audience's mood and reactions. That takes an exceptional degree of showmanship. There's the falling dummy, the miraculous reappearance, the pompous performing. Maybe the magician would even have themselves tied up before it begins to strengthen the impression that there's no escape. Many
Ok.
days and nights of careful research and painstaking practice would have gone into this, all culminating in a performance just a few minutes long, but one that still manages to transform the shock and grief of a tragic accident to the joy and laughter of a mesmerizing magic trick.
Claro, eso no pasó
Caesar
con
was a
César, así
highly
que, bueno,
accomplished magician,
todos se pusieron tristes más que...
but unfortunately, even he didn't manage to pull it off.
So, how did it go so wrong? You said you found some fishy stuff here. Have you figured out what really happened?
I can make a pretty good guess. I looked into the case files. The magic box Caesar was using at the time of his death had the secret button I mentioned positioned on the right-hand side. And, sure enough, he always used his right hand as his dominant hand in public.
Okay.
Nothing suspicious there.
But here's the strange thing. Most of the devices in this workshop have the mechanism on the left-hand side, including this box right here, which leads me to believe that Caesar was in fact left-handed.
Pero, o sea,
Because a magician can't afford to have their most basic habits stand out too much. People naturally focus their attention on the most important details of the task or situation at hand. But a magician needs to be able to redirect an audience's attention at will, so as to avoid arousing their suspicion. The essence of magic is getting people to believe a lie. If even the truth raises eyebrows, the falsehoods become all the more difficult to mask.
ok.
And so, Caesar trained himself to use his right hand to align with his audience's expectations. Great magic always requires sacrifices. But in his most stressful and nerve-wracking moments, and when no one was watching, reflex would kick in and he'd use his left hand. That's why he set his gadgets with the mechanism on his left.
Y alguien se aprovechó de ello.
Exactly. I think that's likely what happened.
O sea,
Caesar would have been under a
no me
lot of
termina de
time pressure
convencer el
during the
argumento,
escape.
pero...
He'd have had mere seconds to open the hidden compartment, retrieve the dummy, then open the secret door and make a swift escape. But I'm sure he was confident. He would have rehearsed countless times to the point where it was second nature. He'd barely need to think about what he was doing because muscle memory would guide him through. So he opened the compartment, took out the dummy, checked everything was in order, and then went to leave. With his left hand, he reached for the button, and suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. It wasn't there. Much like when you reach for your keys but find your pocket empty, his mind needed a moment to process what was going on. Instinctively, his left hand would keep feeling around for the missing button, maybe for another second or two, until the bottom of the box gave way. With the stakes being as high as they were, just a 2-second delay cost him everything. The authorities would find nothing suspicious and conclude that his death was due to his own error.
Ya.
In reality, someone switched the boxes, and they did it to murder him.
Sí, o sea, cuando son cosas tan complicadas como esas, o sea, que la gente no tiene ni puñetera idea de lo que está pasando,
Difficult to pull off.
es mucho más fácil cometer un asesinato porque, ajá, o
It
sea,
would
la gente va a
have to have
pensar
been
que fue
someone
error del
that
mago.
he was left-handed and who could move his props around without arousing suspicion. Someone who was always by his side. Isn't that right, Lorenzo?
Lorenzo, pedazo de imbécil.
Could you? There's not a lot of people who'd go to all this trouble for some magician who died 10 years ago. I didn't want to have to do this, you know. Silencing you the hard way just creates more problems for me to deal.
Hijo, estoy a punto de reventarte la cara.
I hoped you'd do what's good for you and back off like the lady, but you disappoint me.
You mean Gemma? So you are the one who's been threatening her.
Si Espina de Rosura está a punto de darte una lección que no tienes idea.
However stubborn she might be, she was never much of a liability. But you people, you never even knew him, but for some reason you just wouldn't drop it. Which is why you can't leave this place alive.
Oh, vamos allá. Vamos allá. Voy a disfrutar esto como no tenés idea. Así que más les vale que duren, cabrón. Porque esto se viene intenso.
Attack! That's the way. Watch out! Attack!
Quake!
And voila!
En bola. ¿Dónde van, hijo de perra? No. ¿Dónde carajo van? Hola.
Oh, you kids are tougher than you look.
Had
Jódete,
enough yet,
Lorenzo.
Lorenzo? Your cronies can't help you now. I think it's high time you started talking. And what I'd really like to know is, why did you murder Caesar?
If I had a mora for every time you said that man's name. Of course you idolize Caesar, everyone else did. But I was the real genius magician. Me! He was just an amateur who did cheap tricks for gullible children. I was the one who made magic into the fine art it is today. The aristocrats doffed their hats
Jódete,
to
Lorenzo.
me.
So it was jealousy.
Jealousy. Hatred, more like. I hated Caesar. All he cared about was his magic. He lived and breathed it. He poured everything into his street performances and his stupid tours like it was just a hobby to him, never bothering to think about Mora. What sort of fool devotes their life to the art of deception and never has a Mora to show for it? But the people loved him, didn't they? Oh, how they looked up to him. No one gave me a second look. All I ever heard was, "Oh, your master's amazing, isn't he?" Amazing. Yeah, so amazing that he was completely broke.
¿Sabes qué? Estoy por tirarte
Every
un...
other apprentice was living it up at their master's expense,
Ay,
but
por Dios.
no, not me. I put in all the work, mastered all the skills, and it brought me nothing more than the life I already had.
Estoy por tirarte un meteorito de Sean Lee y dejarte aquí petrificado como roca el resto de la puñetera vida, hijo de tu puñetera madre. ¿Por eso lo mataste? Porque no te separaste de él.
He forbade me from using magic to trick people out of their mora. There was nothing he hated more than that. And with his reputation in Fontaine, it was too risky for me to go it alone. As long as he was alive, if I dabbled in my own brand of money-making magic, he would expose me and it would destroy me. I had
¿Qué asco me das,
kill him.
Lorenzo?
There was no other way. He had to go.
And
Como
this
siempre,
was
todo
your
por
only
dinero.
motive?
It was reason enough. What other motive would I need?
Well, I was under the impression that there might have been other factors at play. For instance, maybe you were in love with Gemma, but she was engaged to Caesar.
In love with Gemma? Don't be ridiculous.
Guess I was wrong about that then. Next question. Are you the Phantom Weasel?
I am. Caesar was so strict with me. He insisted that his way was the right way. That the sole purpose of magic was to bring joy to the world.
Jódete,
I
Lorenzo.
never bought into any of that. I was more interested in the practical value of magic. Sure enough, it helped me fill my pockets with all kinds of valuable treasures.
Dicen que el fantasma comadreja le daba igual robar a ricos o a pobres.
Oh, yeah! Charlotte told us that the weasel would steal whatever people valued, no matter how much it was worth.
That's just how it looked from the outside. What would any thief want with second-rate loot? I've only ever targeted high-value items. I stole cheap things as a way of practicing my craft. It was other people's overactive imaginations that conjured up the preposterous image they then dubbed the Phantom Weasel.
So that's the story, huh? Well, I hope you're ready to tell it all over again during your trial.
What choice do I have? You're a pack of wolves, and you've got me between your jaws. You've seen what's here, and my last-ditch effort to stop it getting out has failed.
Puedes morir. Te puedo ejecutar aquí nomás. Y nos ahorramos todo el papeleo.
I've enjoyed power and wealth for the last 10 years, the likes of which Caesar could never give me. I wouldn't choose.
Very well. In that case, I'll contact the guards.
Yo llamaría a la guillotina.
Paimon, keep an eye on Lorenzo for me. I'll meet you just outside the workshop when I'm back.
Pues mira, Lini. Ahora que Lini no está, vos y yo tenemos cosas pendientes. ¿Verdad, Lorenzo? Perderá la cabeza. O Lorenzo. ¿Qué fue lo que dijiste? ¿Acerca de robarle a la gente? ¡Pum! Ejecutado. Ahora sí. Lorenzo ya no existe. Lini, voy a preguntar, ¿qué le pasó? Es que mira, veníamos de regreso y te acordás de aquel mecanismo por el que pasamos arriba, que se miraba medio raro. Bueno, parece que se le trabó un pie ahí, pues bueno, y quedó en medio de los engranajes. Lo siento, pero no va a haber trial para Lorenzo. Ese que ves ahí es un fantasma. Lorenzo realmente está muerto.
Lorenzo, do you confess to the murder of Caesar?
Look who's finally developed a conscience. What kind of disciple murders their own master? I hope it was worth it.
¿Por
Because
qué
there'll be hell to pay.
No sé si se han fijado, pero desde que llegamos a Fontaine no hemos visto a nadie resistirse a un arresto, lo cual me parece un poco extraño.
Looks like it's all over. What should we do next, Lenny? Should we start preparing for your show?
Let me think. Let's rendezvous with Lynette and Gemma first. With Lorenzo in custody, Gemma will no longer have to fear for her safety.
Good point. We should go tell Gemma the good news right away. It'll give her some peace of mind for sure.
Ok. Sí, escuchaban el eco que había aquí en la cosa esta. Escuchaba bien chingón. Vamos a ver, informemos. Arriba, ¿no? Quiero creer que es arriba. Porque de hecho tendría que ser en la cafetería. Uy. Me mojé. Olet. ¿Terminaste con tu pastelito? Tenemos cosas que hacer.
Ah, you're back.
Sí.
You were so quick. I've only just finished my third dessert.
Ah, ok.
Your third?
Sí.
Lynette, come on. We've talked about this. Everything in moderation. You're not gonna have any room left for dinner now.
Ah, Lini siempre cuidando a
I'll
la
shift to
hermanita.
exercise mode and jog off the excess sugar.
That's besides the point. Well, it's done now. But try to eat a more balanced diet in the future.
Point taken.
Me encanta, Lynette.
Okay?
Of course! Lorenzo was no match for us. The guards are taking him into custody as we speak.
Gosh, that's amazing. I'm sorry. I still didn't know if I
No,
could trust
tranquila, o
you.
sea, era comprensible que no
Seems I
querías decir
can.
nada después de cómo te tenían amenazadas, que era
Had my
una
suspicions
tontería.
about Lorenzo.
Tranquila, tranquila.
I
It's okay. We understand. He did threaten you. Paimon would find it hard to trust strangers in your position too.
Exacto.
But you don't need to be scared anymore. Everything's gonna be okay.
Sorry. My emotions are all over the place right now. I've been waiting for this day to come for so long. I always wanted to report Lorenzo. He took all of Caesar's property, which I found suspicious. But I had people watching me all the time, so I couldn't risk looking into it. I was so afraid. I was scared he'd do something terrible to me. And then no one would be left to visit Caesar's grave.
Oh.
So I never had the courage to speak out. Thank you all. Truly. Thank you so much.
Pobrecita. Y le cuenta a todo el mundo en el cementerio la noticia de la detención de Lorenzo y entonces todos rinden memoria a César. Se lo merece. Estamos arreglando, ¿cómo se dice esto? Estamos arreglando injusticias. Como por ejemplo la de Furina, y quiero ver cuando arreglemos esa injusticia. Necesito que todos le pidan perdón a Furina y que le rindan homenaje. Pobre niño, ha sufrido demasiado.
And to think that lowlife's been living life to the fullest all this time, while Caesar's name was getting dragged through the mud. It's a travesty.
Sí.
At least his soul can finally rest in peace now, thanks to your efforts.
Pobre Yama.
If only I'd realized before it was too late.
Don't blame yourself, Gemma. This isn't your fault. Yeah, you still have the rest of your life to live. Caesar wouldn't want to see you spending it feeling guilty. Cheer up, Gemma. My brother's doing a magic show at the Opera House tomorrow evening. Would you like to come along? It might raise your spirits. This show will be a special one. We're holding it in Caesar's honor.
In Caesar's honor? Really? Oh, thank you. I'll be there.
Great. We'll see you tomorrow evening. Traveler, Paimon, don't be late.
Claro, con que no vayas a hacer el truco que mató a César, por favor, es lo único que te pido.
Out on a free magic show. Wait, Paimon feels like we're forgetting something.
¿El qué?
Oh yeah, Caesar's diary! We never found out if the two kids Caesar taught magic to were Linny and Lynette or not.
Creo que es lógico, Paimon.
Linny changed the topic back at the workshop, so we didn't get a chance to bring it up. Oh well, guess we'll just have to ask Linny tomorrow evening.
Me acabo de acordar que desde que tenemos a Navia no hemos venido a presentarle respetos a su padre. Y aprovechando que estamos aquí, pues... mis respetos, papá de Navia. ¿Cómo se llamaba? Carlas era, ¿no? Algo así. De hecho... Calas, aquí está, presidente Calas. Mi respeto, Calas. Espero que te encuentres en un lugar mejor. Nadie se mantendrá bien con nosotros aquí. Cuidaremos de tu hijita. Me he dado cuenta que tiene la cosa esta del disparo aquí arriba. ¿Y quién es esa tumba con flores? Qué bonita. A ver. Esperas a la noche del día siguiente, a las 6, de 6 a 20. De 6 a 6 a 20. Hoy a las 6. Ahí están las cositas estas de agua. Venga.
My time with the Spina has taught me that carrying an unreliable weapon is worse than not carrying one at all.
Nadie siempre cargando un arma. Debería haber permisos para manejar armas aquí en Fontaine. Vamos, come on. Vamos allá. Uy, completamos los encargos del día y tenía que tener puesta aquí a Charlotte. Me cago en todo. Se me olvidó por completo. Charlotte. Charlilot, ¿qué te hiciste? Charlotte, aquí estás.
Let's get this interview started.
¿Qué más cantas?
I promise to keep you safe.
Venga. Vámonos, vámonos. ¿What? Ese icono es nuevo. Este icono en mi vida lo había visto. ¿Qué onda con este icono? Ahí me están esperando ahí adentro. Así que con tu permiso voy a entrar. Hello darkness, my old friend. I come to talk to you again. Me encanta la música de esta zona. Alforina. Me encanta la música, por Dios, es preciosa. Ya se escucha, ¿no? Ah, sí, sí se escucha. Venga, vamos a nuestro asiento. Siempre nos toca al frente, por lo que veo. Ya quisiera tener yo pases así todo el tiempo. Se pasa por aquí. Sí, por aquí se pasa. ¡Ahí está Charlotte! Como siempre, de metida en todas partes. Cago en tu madre, Charlotte.
Not this time. My brother's going solo today. So
What?
I'll be watching with you.
Good evening,
Eso es nuevo.
ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody's ready because the show is about to begin.
Qué raro de animación.
Linny has prepared a spectacular show for us all tonight, concluding with an all-new
No, va a ser el maldito
that no
truco.
audience has ever seen.
Va a ser el maldito truco de César.
Thank you all
Me
so
cago en
much
tu
for
madre,
coming.
Lini. Qué ganas de morirte las que tenés.
Prepare to join me on a journey through the mystical and miraculous.
Cago en tus muertos, Lini.
Exciting stuff, isn't it?
Yes, it's just... It reminds me of him.
No wonder. Caesar was a famous magician too. So, how did you two first meet, Gemma?
Well, I was out on the street once, and I saw him performing for little children. Children love magic, because they're willing to believe in things that can't be rationally explained. Caesar had this amazing way of bringing them into a dream.
César no tenía una visión, ¿verdad?
And somehow,
¿O sí la tenía?
I felt drawn to him too. So, I went up and asked him to do a trick for me.
Aw, that sounds so romantic. What trick did he do?
It was with a flower. He took it in his hand, snapped his fingers, and it magically appeared on my head. I was so happy that day. No one had ever given me a flower before that.
No.
Oh, that's so cute. Actually, now that you mention it, Linny's done that one before.
Is that right? Then I suppose he's a romantic at heart.
De hecho, nos dio una flor a nosotros. ¿Lini le quiere caer a Lumin? Okay.
After all, you never know when the people dearest to you might be gone.
Eso es triste, Gemma. Hemos atrapado al asesino.
That's right. It's all over now. Paimon doesn't really know how to...
No, la verdad es que yo ninguna de las dos opciones me parecían bien decírselas, porque una es demasiado cabrona, es demasiado... Si atrapamos al asesino, bueno, ¿y eso qué? O sea, se escucha demasiado feo. Y lo otro, no estés triste, bueno, lo típico de que no estés triste. Ah, gracias, ahora ya no estoy triste. O sea, qué tremenda estupidez.
Wait, what? Phantom Weasel? Lorenzo escaped? Where is he?
What do you mean, Phantom Weasel?
As Linny once said, a performer's job is to commit fully to their role and put on a flawless performance for their audience. But once the bag of tricks is empty and the curtain falls, it's time to end the show. The spotlight is no place for someone with no more cards up their sleeve.
No me enteré. ¿Qué acaba de pasar?
Aren't you tired of the grieving widow act? I think it's time to put an end to it.
What are you talking about? Traveler, Paimon doesn't like where this is going.
Sí, yo creo que ya me di cuenta de qué está pasando.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all enjoying the performance so far. There will now be a brief intermission, after which Linny will perform the most electrifying act of tonight's show. The one we've all been waiting for.
Me hubiera encantado ver los trucos de magia, pero bueno, doy por hecho que no es posible.
Outside of the opera house, so please make your way outside in a calm and orderly fashion.
The Phantom Weasel never did like public places, did they? Don't worry, this place will be quiet soon. Let's talk somewhere else for now.
Lynette. Eso explica los ojos tan penetrantes de la mirada de los niños que describían en el libro. A ver, ¿qué pasó aquí? Me engañaron bien esta vez, hijo de su madre. Yo care Paimon.
This is awkward, isn't it? And unfortunately, I'm all out of gadgets, so I'm afraid I can't do any tricks to liven up the mood. This is a big mistake for a magician to make, but thankfully, I do have a backup plan. Now, who wants to hear a story?
A ver.
Linny, don't we have more important things to address right now?
Un poco, pero esa es la forma de Linny de explicar las cosas.
All in good time. Magicians are good at guessing what people are thinking. I know the questions you want to ask, and as it happens, the story I'm about to tell might answer a few of them.
Really? Well then, let's hear it! Paimon's dying of curiosity here!
Let's go back to the very beginning. A decade ago, when the Phantom Weasel was terrorizing the court of Fontaine. She never missed a target, never left a trace, and no treasure was safe from her thieving hands.
Okay, hair.
But as her infamy grew, so
Qué bonito el
did the
traje de
readiness
esta
of police,
tipa.
and her opportunities to act became ever fewer. Every day, she ran the risk of being exposed for who she was. Of course, she could not simply take this lying down, and before long, she found her ticket to freedom. She would create a scapegoat, a false weasel to close the chapter on her behalf. After weighing her options, she set her sights on a renowned magician, Caesar. After all, Magic and theft shared enough similarities for people to buy the story when the truth came out.
Ajá.
So then what?
Being the master deceiver she was, the weasel easily earned Caesar's trust. Now, all that
Ese era César.
to frame him for her
Qué cagado la risa. Es que me lo imaginé muy
As
diferente.
she was considering how to make her move, she noticed Caesar's aggrieved pupil, and a new thought entered her mind. Maybe I don't need to get my hands dirty after all. At her encouragement, Lorenzo tampered with Caesar's magic box, causing him to fall to his death. Afterwards, Lorenzo seized his master's property, and the weasel set about tarnishing Caesar's reputation. Two co-conspirators committed the perfect crime.
Ok.
I've got to hand it to you. You're both exceptional storytellers. It's enough to make even me wonder whether there was really another mastermind behind all this. But I just have one question. You seem to think that I am the villain in this tale. What's brought this on, Linny? Is it something that Lorenzo said?
Don't worry, Lorenzo said nothing at all. But I never believed that he was the weasel, and in fact, my investigation only made me more certain of that. He was too forthcoming with his confession. As if there
Exacto.
was something else he was trying to hide.
How disappointing. So you'd sooner trust Lorenzo than me? Even without a shred of evidence?
A magician is an expert at playing the
Imagino que
odds
intentaba
to get the
protegerla
result
como
they
tal,
want.
fue lo que le preguntó
And
Lini. En
I
el
have
momento
no
dijo,
doubt
Nel,
that
no, o
you
sea, no,
gentlemen
no siento nada
are
por ella.
equally talented in this regard. With a little help from Lorenzo, you put on a very convincing performance. The lovesick fiancé, whose devotion to her betrothed is unshakable, even under threats of violence. Caesar
Bueno.
was maligned and hated by all for 10 years, but you? Everyone sympathized with your plight. Who would suspect for 1 second that the lovely young lady always seemed weeping in front of Caesar's grave was
Qué hijo
actually
de
the
perra.
mastermind
No
behind
puede
his
ser esto
demise?
así. No, no puede
No,
ser.
not that poor lady. Perish the thought.
Wait, so you mean the whole intimidation thing was just a hoax? You and Lorenzo were both in on it?
Ejecuté a Lorenzo por Gemma.
Lorenzo agreed to that.
Ups.
Why didn't he sell her out even at the end instead of admitting to being the weasel himself?
Yes, why indeed?
Tener que pegarle la cabeza otra vez al
Maybe
pobre
Gemma
Lorenzo.
herself could enlighten us on that question.
Well, Linny, if you're so confident in your version of events, then I think the answer should be obvious. Having killed Caesar with his own hands, Lorenzo was plagued by overwhelming guilt. Revealing the Phantom Weasel's true identity would serve no purpose. But if the Weasel remained free, then she could take care of Lorenzo's loved ones.
An excellent answer, though sadly a little dull.
Is that right? Well, don't let me bore you. If you'd care to change the topic to something more interesting, I'd be much obliged.
As a matter of fact, there's one thing I'd really like to understand. Why would the real weasel have targeted things that only have value to other people? Could you shed any light on that?
Of course.
Me acaban de majear bien feo en
After
este
all,
arco, en este arco
we're
quest,
just
en este
telling
quest.
stories here, aren't we? If I had to guess, I would say that the real weasel must have had a terrible childhood. Left to fend for herself after her parents died young. Betrayed, scorned, beaten. She'd scrounge waste paper from garbage bins to draw on, using twigs and dirt for lack of ink and pen.
Ok, ahora me quieren hacer sentir pena por ahí otra vez. Me cago en tus muertos. Joyo verso, decidí.
This was her only source of happiness in life. But it was all she needed, and she was content. Until the world decided that even this was too good for her. Once again, she was betrayed. And this time, everything was taken from her. She felt like life was a miry pit that dragged her further down the more she struggled to escape. This was a fate too cruel for anyone to bear. Her pain became a breeding ground for dark thoughts. Thoughts which festered and grew into a twisted solution to her troubles. I detest the happiness of others. in all its forms alike. I will rob them of everything they hold to be good and true, and it will fill the void in my soul.
Interesante.
That's some pretty heavy stuff.
Now it all makes sense.
Does this story satisfy you, Linny?
Yes, it is quite to my tastes. Thank you for helping to clear up my confusion.
Esta es la carta de aviso de hace 3 días. Sí,
That's right.
llama.
What drove you to write that letter, Gemma? What were you trying to achieve there? Because without that, none of this would have ever come to light.
She didn't write the letter.
After 10 long years, I'd hoped that the Phantom Weasel would be consigned to the history books by now. But it seems like someone still wasn't ready to let her find
O sea,
the
Linny se
witch.
puso esa carta a sí mismo.
Linny? Or should I call you the Phantom Copycat now? You were the one who posted that letter outside the Opera House. But why?
Ah, pues por esto, ¿no? O sea, no
Very
hay un why
sharp,
más
Phantom Weasel.
lógico que esto.
Still as shrewd as ever. Well, no need for me to be coy about it. Our goal was to clear Caesar's name. The most straightforward way to change the public's impression of Caesar was to force the Weasel to show themselves.
That's it? You had no other agenda?
Of course we did. We made it quite clear in the letter, I believe. I shall take from you that which you hold most dear, just as you did to me 10 years ago.
Ok.
10 years ago? You mean Caesar's death?
De hecho, o sea, vos le quitaste a César, ellos te van a quitar... ¿Qué? ¿Esto?
Wait. Oh, I get it. You were those two obnoxious kids. It's been so long, and you're all grown up now. I didn't recognize
Y
you.
Lynette bien perrada. Ya veo por qué no la quería defender hace rato.
For what, 10 days or something? And you went to all this trouble. Why? Because you feel like you still owe him something?
We remember all our debts, however great or small. 10 years ago, Caesar's reputation was torn to shreds, and his legacy was thrown out. 10 years on, and no one cares what the truth is anymore. But we did not forget, and so we came to find you.
And? What exactly did you take from me? I'm still standing, as you can see. Lorenzo has admitted to everything.
Pues puedo cortarte la cabeza ahorita mismo y soy amigo del juez, así que dudo que vayan a meter el fuerte me lo
Do
pide
you
a mí.
really think so? Caesar once told me that even though the world is filled with lies and falsehoods, we must find our own truth. I think that applies to you too. Truth can take many forms. Prized possessions with nostalgic value, fervent hopes and dreams, and irreplaceable people.
Cara de Paimon, no me entero de eso.
Things from you, and those wounds never healed. When they ached unbearably in the dead of night, stealing became your way of numbing the pain.
What are you trying to say?
I'm saying that for the last 10 years, you've been living a rather uneventful life. Perhaps that's because you found something other than a life of crime to fill the hole? Back to Lorenzo for a second. He murdered his own master, played along with your act, and took pains to make sure any suspicion would be directed towards him. But what did he have to gain from all that? He knew who you were and the things you'd done, and despite that, he was willing to give everything up for your sake. He's the reason that you haven't felt the compulsion to steal in all these years. You're more than just accomplices in murder. You're the only real friends each other has. So I think you know, deep down, that he is the only truth you have in your life. But that truth is gone now, and I guarantee you'll never see it again.
Ja, 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 ja. Bueno.
Congratulations on your freedom, Gemma.
Your freedom will cost you dearly. From now on, you'll be all alone in a world full of lies and falsehoods. I do hope you'll be able to bear it. You've still got a long life ahead of you after all.
Gather round, one and all. The time has now come for the amazing Linny to perform his final act in tonight's show. I'm sure you're all
Robert
wondering
Houdin.
what he has planned for the grand finale. Well, wonder no more, for the answer is a death-defying high-altitude escape.
Obviamente iba a hacer eso. Lo mismo que César no pudo
I'm
hacer.
sure you all remember the magician Caesar. This was the very trick that led to his fatal fall. After we have now learned that Caesar was wrongly accused, and that the real weasel has now confessed to their crimes.
Guess that's my cue to leave. Whew. I've been practicing this one for ages now, but I'm
Bueno,
still
dudo
not
que
enough.
Lini se muera.
Traveler,
Eso más que obvio.
I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. There may be a lot of people watching tonight, but you alone are my true witnesses.
Lenny, wait. You two hid a lot from Caesar. He went to his grave without ever knowing your secrets. So what about now? Are you an open book? Or are you still the same as ever? You don't have to tell lies to end up isolated and alone. One day, you'll end up exactly where I am today.
Carolina.
Maybe then you'll finally understand.
You're wrong. I'm nothing like you.
So, what are we doing?
Sí, no, mira, Paimon, yo que vos esperaríamos a Gemma afuera y lo vamos a enterrar junto a su esposo.
What about Gemma?
She'll figure out what's best for her soon enough. Oh, and if you'd like to see Lenny after the show, you know where he'll be. The usual haunt.
All right. Well, let's go and watch Lenny's finale then. This trick's a pretty dangerous one, but she should be able to pull it off, right?
Claro. Gemma. Miren esa cara. Es la cara de la decepción. Tomen una foto. Y recuerden que está asquerosa.
Sometimes I think I'm like a gambling addict. All I care about is winning, and it doesn't matter what's at stake. By the time I come to my senses, I'm left with nothing. Oh, if I had my time again.
Qué desgracia. Da vergüenza. Miren.
Magicians are not like thieves. Thieves only tear things apart. But good-hearted magicians, they put things back together.
No, ok. Espérate, what? Espérate, ¿el número ya terminó entonces? Yo quería ver el truco. Según yo, eso íbamos ahorita. Bueno. Esto es interesante. Observa el número de escapismo de altura mágico. Pero eso que no es. ¿What? ¿Se acaba de estar afuera? Según yo iba a ser adentro. ¿Qué? Ah, desde ahí arriba lo va a hacer. Ok. Ay, Lini, hijo mío.
Magic should be mysterious, surprising, and
Cinemático.
defy logic. Magic is hard work. Every single movement has to be practiced thousands of times.
Sí, me lo imagino.
We're used to that.
Ay, pobrecita.
We're sorry. You've taught us so much, but we can't tell you the whole truth.
It's okay. Do you still remember what I told you? This
Qué
world is full
lindo.
of lies and falsehoods. I only hope that one day you can find your own truth.
What about you? Have you found your truth?
Magic is my truth. I want to perform a magic trick so great that people will always
Dios, qué
think of me when they talk
hermoso.
about it. For a magician, what greater
Pobre
honor could there be?
César.
Look! Behold! Linny is sealed inside the box. Will he manage to escape? 10 years ago, Caesar attempted this very trick, and it was at this precise moment that...
Watch out!
No, espérate. What?
Mysterious. Surprising.
Qué hermoso está
Logic
esto.
defying. Isn't that right? This honor belongs to you, Caesar. I'm just sorry it's a little late.
Did you see that?
What?
He was falling, and the next, he turned
Mira,
into...
Melusina.
How could he possibly have done that?
How mysterious. I didn't blink once. He just vanished right in front of my eyes.
What a heart-stopping magic show! This was really worth the trip. Caesar's name has finally been cleared, and Fontaine's new star magician Linny has fulfilled a wish on his behalf. Oh, I couldn't ask for a better grand finale.
Me acabo de poder echarla. Qué ganas de escribirlo todo.
Looks like everyone really loved
Ay, no
Linny's
puedo
grand
eso.
finale.
No, Lin y Lina tan chiquitos, son tan tiernos. No saben todo lo que hay detrás.
Lynette doesn't see Linny anywhere. Where'd he go? Oh, Lynette said he'd be waiting for us at the usual hunt. But, where is that?
El cementerio.
Oh, you mean the one where Caesar's buried?
Sí, y el papá de Navia.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Todos los importantes están enterrados ahí, por lo que veo. Que un montón de gente muerta hay aquí en Fontaine.
So it makes sense that that's where he'd be afterward.
De hecho, creo que es el único lugar que tiene un cementerio formal, ¿no? De todas las naciones. En todas las naciones hay lápidas por ahí y por allá, pero creo que Fontaine es el único lugar que tiene un cementerio formal. Vamos a visitar a tu papi otra vez, Navia. Pobre Navia, solo en el cementerio, paz. Qué horrible debe ser eso realmente. O sea, yo solo he perdido como que a una persona que es relativamente... Hostia, casi me muero, casi pierdo a Navia también. Solo he perdido a una persona que es relativamente cercana a mi familia y, o sea, se sintió bien feo, pero... Uy, perder a alguien tan cercano como un padre para Navia o un padre figurativo para Lin y Lynette debe ser duro. Debe ser malditamente jodido.
You lead the way.
Linny! There you are. Are you alright? Paimon was scared to death when the chain broke. Paimon was sure something had gone horribly wrong.
Magic is a performance art. A magician has to get creative to keep the audience on tenterhooks. That's our job. So I tweaked Caesar's original setup a little to keep it fresh. I was honestly a little nervous during the live performance. The thought of falling, suddenly feeling weightless, seeing the sky and the ground spinning and spinning. Sometimes, I can't help but wonder what Caesar thought in those final moments. Did he regret taking Gemma and Lorenzo?
Me gustaría con que sea una descripción le hubieran puesto ahí en la lápida. ¿Cómo se le dice eso?
Right until the end.
You know, Paimon's been wanting to ask you about something ever since we were in Caesar's workshop. You learned magic from Caesar once, didn't you? When was that?
After I joined the House of the Hearth.
Ya, eso tiene más sentido.
To be honest, Lynette and I had an agenda when we approached him.
No, creo que no vaya a decir cuál, pero igualmente creo que esas cosas sobre lo que sobre lo que los de la casa de lo que era, o sea, Arlequino les puso como trabajo.
I told you about my past before, remember? As a young boy, I survived by secretly learning magic from street performers.
Sí.
I'd watch their
Pero
tricks
eso fue
and try to
antes
figure out how
de la
they were
casa de lo que
done.
era.
But I quickly realized that observation alone could only get me so far. What I saw was the polished final performance, but the rigorous training they put in behind the scenes remained invisible to me. I needed to learn how to improve my sleight of hand, hone my misdirection skills, and make niftier props. We were gifted enough that we'd made some progress by ourselves, but without proper guidance from a professional magician, we quickly plateaued.
So that's why you sought Caesar out?
Yes. We figured there was no harm in asking, but it took us by surprise that he was so willing to teach us. In all, we only spent 10 short days together, but he was very good to us.
10
By
días.
contrast, we hid so many things from him. For instance, when he asked why I wanted to learn magic, I answered, "It's my passion." But in truth, there was already a lot more to the story by then. After being taken in by an aristocrat for our magic talent, then betrayed soon after, this was no longer about me doing what I loved.
Ya, me lo
What
imagino.
amazed me was how the lie escaped my lips even as I was hesitating over whether to tell him the truth. Trust is a beautiful thing. Sadly, I'd forgotten how to trust by then.
Lenny.
A ver, yo no diría ninguna de estas dos cosas. Yo le diría sí, la verdad es que es complicado. Eso es lo que yo diría. Porque es que, o sea, tú no tienes la culpa, hombre. Pudieron haber escogido en confiar en él. No podías hacer otra cosa. Y es cosa, yo sé que la confianza, de hecho, de aquí es que vengo y recuerdo otra vez la frase de Reddington. Valora la lealtad por encima de todo. Porque, o sea, lealtad, confianza, poder tener la capacidad de confiar en alguien para tus cosas no es algo que se tome a la ligera, es algo muy importante.
Still worried about the way I feel? You really are a gentle soul, aren't you? But don't worry, I'm used to it now. From the mansions of the elite to the house of the hearth, lies and selfishness have followed me and Lynette everywhere we go. After Caesar went on tour, we became busy with our missions. The next we heard of him was that he'd fallen to his death, and was now declared to be the Phantom Weasel. That night, I remembered his smile. But as I lay there, I didn't know what to say to him. To keep secrets is to put up walls. The longer you
Me gusta
keep
que solo
them,
la
the less
lágrima
you
se
let
alcanza a
people
ver en ese momento.
Then one day, you look
Eso.
around and realize your life is like an empty auditorium after a show, full of seats once occupied by all the people who left. But I guess that's the price we have to pay. You only realize how much someone really meant to you when you lose them completely. That's why I was so confident this would hurt Gemma. Because I felt it for myself.
Ya no tiene sentido arrepentirse. Si quieres, podemos quedarnos un rato más en las gradas.
Yeah, cheer up, Lenny. We've had to say our fair share of goodbyes during our journey, too. But whatever happens, Paimon always believes in what tomorrow brings.
¿A cuánto les hemos dicho adiós realmente en nuestras historias? No mucho, ¿no? Tampoco ha sido tanto, Paimon. No hemos visto morir mucha gente, creo yo.
To focus on things
No?
like this, and all the unhappy stuff goes right out the window. You know, Traveler, doesn't that kind of make you Paimon's truth?
Exactly. It's the same for me and Lynette. We are the truest thing each other has in the world, and nothing can replace that. Life has taken plenty from us, like it did from Gemma. But at least it left us with each other. That's what gave us the strength to get through the darkest days. That's why the darkness never consumed me and why it never will. Maybe we live in the shadows too, but we remember every precious ray of light that shines through. All right, time to lighten this conversation up a little. What did you think of the show tonight?
Estuvo hermoso, eso no te lo voy a negar.
It was amazing! Paimon just wishes we hadn't been so distracted with the Gemma situation. Winnie, could you do just one more trick for us?
En serio, Paimon.
That's a bit of a tall order, I'm afraid. The show's just finished, so my sleeves are decidedly card-free right now.
Aw, come on! Surely you can think of something. The Winnie Paimon knows can do anything if he puts his mind to it.
Ay, Paimon, por Dios.
Then. I'll give it a go, but only because it's you. Watch closely. I have a flower in my hand.
You liar! There's nothing in your hand!
Huh? My goodness, you're right. But I could have sworn I brought one here with me. Okay, try this. Count down with me. 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
Now, have another look around.
Cabrón.
Somewhere else.
Really?
Qué ganas de ponerle la flor a Lumi.
Wow, there it is! Oh, this is a different flower from the last time, right?
Sí, un rosa arcoíris.
A rainbow rose. But more importantly, Paimon has to know how the trick is done. Please, Linny.
Well, if you want to learn magic, you'll have to start by addressing me as teacher.
Fine. Please, teacher, please.
Since you asked so nicely, I'll share one little tip with you. Namely, the student of magic cannot solely rely on others being prepared to reveal their secrets.
Sí, esto está complicado porque, a ver, ¿cómo, ¿en qué momento se acercó a nosotros para ponernos las flores esa cochina?
Is that it?
Ah, look at the time. We shouldn't linger here too long. Thanks again for coming to see my show. I bid you both good night. I look forward to seeing you again.
All right, fine. See ya. Shall we head back down too? Oh, Paimon can't wait to read the Steambird tomorrow. Paimon bets Linny and Caesar will be plastered all over it. Let's head to the Steambird's offices tomorrow morning and see what we can find out.
Ok. Entrevistas, espero hasta la mañana del día siguiente. O sea, ha tardado más esta misión en el resto de las cosas que como tal en el mero centro. A ver. ¿A qué hora decía? 8 y 12, ¿no? Y 8 y 12. A ver. Vamos allá. Solo denme un momento que justo me están escribiendo y es algo importante, permítanme. A ver, tengo un pequeño problemita y es que mi computadora se está sobrecalentando bastante ahorita y no sé por qué. Hace poco cambié la cosa esta de... del... ¿Cómo se dice esto? Del enfriamiento este líquido, pero está sacando bastante vapor ahorita la computadora. Aire caliente como tal. A ver, vamos para allá.
I'm very sorry, Charlotte, but my sister and I are quite busy today. I'm afraid we'll have to decline this interview.
Oh, please, Linny, I'll only take a moment of your time. If you would be so kind.
Por Dios, que jodido el de Charlotte. Qué ganas de estar metida todo. Le juro que lo que dije la vez pasada, o sea, no es que realmente me molesten los entrevistadores, los periodistas, es que me molesta que sean tan malditamente insistentes. O sea, un no es no, por Dios. Yo entiendo que sea su trabajo, pero es que tu madre, o sea, si hay alguien a quien podrían acusar de ¿cómo se dice esto? De invasión al espacio, por así decirlo. De tanto joder a las personas. Básicamente creo que los periodistas como Charlotte, si es que tienen las primeras por ser acusados de esto. Estuve toda la noche escribiendo una columna sobre el fantasma de comadreja para que se publicaran en el periódico de hoy. Fantasma comadreja. A ver.
Just as dawn broke, I suddenly received news that Caesar's fiancée Gemma had contacted the guards and confessed to having been the real Phantom Weasel all
Obviamente.
along. That was quick. Hmm?
Too late, bro.
That was quick, you say? It sounds like I've got some catching up to do.
Simon, ahora vos te va a tocar dar la entrevista. Por bruta. Por bruta.
Aha! My instincts did not lead me astray. You do have something to hide. Gemma turning herself in must have something to do with Linny's performance last night.
Maybe watching my high-altitude escape trick reminded her of a better time with Caesar, and she could no longer ignore the voice of her conscience.
Huh. Okay, then. Wait, no, there must be more to it. If that's all it took for her to have a change of heart, how did it take her 10 whole years?
Charlotte tiene su espíritu periodístico a flor de piel. Será mejor que se me ocurra una manera de cambiar de tema.
What happened between you?
Ay, por Dios.
Where did you all go after the show?
We went to the cemetery and Linny did a private magic trick just for us.
Paimon, ¿querés cerrarle la boca ya?
Cause that reminds Paimon, guess what? Linny started using rainbow roses in his tricks.
What?
Paimon.
I don't recall ever having received a rainbow rose from you myself. Is this supposed to mean that they're more important to you?
Bueno.
Sister?
No, I just,
What now?
Paimon, solo cerra la boca, por favor. Pobre Linny.
What do we do, traveler?
¡Vámonos!
Seems like this interview wasn't meant to be. Never
Como dice el meme este.
There's always next time.
El de Stampais. Sin excusa específica. Y sale corriendo.
Forgive my persistence, but when there's explosive news waiting to be found, I can't turn away. The news about Gemma has already made waves, and I'll stop at nothing to get to the bottom of it all. Apparently, one of the things she said to the guards was that her final wish is to see Lorenzo one last time. There's clearly a web of complicated relationships there. Blame me for being curious.
Sí, bueno, no te culpo la verdad en este caso.
The rest of your conversation in peace. Bye for now.
No se va a ir, ¿verdad? Va a quedarse en esos arbustos esperando escuchar todo.
Lynette? Paimon didn't mean to.
Solo cállate, Paimon.
Don't worry, I wasn't angry. I was just trying to distract her.
Ah, ok.
Oh, really? Thank goodness. You scared Paimon there.
Phew. You and me both, Paimon. You and me both. At least it did the job, right?
No, realmente estás en problemas, le va a decir Lynette.
Please, take good care of that rainbow rose. I'd be really upset if you lost it.
Ah. Pues me la quedo, tranquila. Charlotte, no estarás aquí escondiéndote, ¿verdad? Ahí está. Charlotte desde los arbustos. Bueno. ¿Qué misión más bonita? Más extraña en ciertas partes. Pasaron cosas, no lo voy a negar. Pasaron cosas bastante turbias. Creo que fue entretenido realmente, en general. La misión de Lynn y Lynette fue súper tierna. Me esperaba algo más, realmente, no se lo voy a negar. Esperaba tal vez que me dieran más información sobre la casa de Loguera, sobre Arlequino y las cosas en general que hacen ahí. Pero, digamos que eso sería todo por esta misión. El Felis Fuscus Acto I, el ladrón olvidado. Damas y caballeros, señoritos y señoritas, gracias por haberme acompañado en este directo y nos vemos en el próximo video. Con esto, ahora sí, me despido. Bye.
Seems Lenny is saying some strange things again. It's really
Bum bottom. Bum bottom. Bottom 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 Tan linda, Lynette. Bueno, ahora sí vamos. Bye.